welcome. Welcome back to this fandom of, it's a very profound teaching, and I'm really wanting to make it clear, as you can probably tell from the description, that I'm not claiming to know Dzogchen. I'm not claiming to know what Patrul Rinpoche, this great Tibetan master, was feeling or teaching. I can only share how much those words resonate with me when he says, simply settle. Or with whatever is going on, with whatever arises, settle directly into the very one, into the very nature of the one who's experiencing whatever the experience is. And so it's from that perspective of fandom, and where I do feel like the Taoist approach that I have learned from Master Wonchull Park, and even how we tend to ground that in very observable physics, things like action, reaction, like we were exploring last time, that however much I give my weight to the earth, it's not up to me. The earth is going to match it equally and opposite, with 100% as much support. And where that can generalize to a sense of the Tao, a sense of the way of nature. So perhaps because Patrul Rinpoche was speaking of the nature of mind, which is harder just to point to. That's why they have these, very, very deep, profound pointing practices, and even much of it is, cloaked in secrecy and initiation and all of that, a whole world of which I know nothing. And yet I feel and I connect with maybe there's some other ways that we can experientially come to know what it is like to simply settle into something directly, without trying to create it, without trying to alter it, without trying to cultivate it, without trying to change it in any way. And we began to explore that last time, again with that just lying flat on the ground and giving all of our weight to the earth. Right? We even phrase it as if it's an active thing, giving our weight to the earth, when that's already what's going on. And today we will be continuing to explore that and seeing what it's like to do it while standing. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's partly language, but partly, like I'm saying, like, to do it, right? When the whole thing is that it's a not doing anyway. But to do it when we're doing the doing of standing, when we're a little bit more active, what does it mean to simply settle? into the support that's always there, when we're not just on the, flat out on the ground, but when we're standing. And maybe we can also begin to feel that sense of something laying down to ground. So we're going to spend a lot of time feeling our body weight laying down through our feet to the ground. But once we get that feel, then the ground can become many things. It doesn't have to just stay as the most obvious thing, the ground. For example, we might begin to feel how our torso acts like the ground upon which our shoulders rest. And then we might be able to feel how, whatever layer of our spine we pick, our whole body, that we could pick. If we could pick ground here at our shoulders, we could actually pick ground at our waist, at our knees. We could pick that sense of ground anywhere through our body. And then this will lead a little bit more into the next exploration for next time. But as we begin to feel the sense of ground as more all-pervasive, even in that just mutual flow sense, this resting upon this interacting, interbeing with this, we might begin to feel that even more as kind of like an extended analogy, a deep metaphor for, using Taoist terminology, there's the ground of the Tao. There's the ground of the way of nature. And in a way, we practice less interfering, less blocking out that way of nature. We're in a way laying down to that reality, letting that reality more fully support us because, not because we're making it or cultivating it or changing it, but because it's there. And when we appreciate it and feel it, it becomes more of our experience. And if we could do that for any aspect of this way of nature, the Tao, is something we often say here in these practices that we do together, is that we're part of the flow of nature. We're not separate from it. We're part of it. So, maybe even the nature of mind is part of this all-together flow, so that we could settle into the very one who thinks, the very one who meditates, the very one who seeks. As Patrul Rinpoche says, sometimes you simply settle into the very one who doubts. And so that there's no exception, no trying to squeeze your experience one way or another, but this process where you can more just simply settle into nature's arising. And that's some of what we'll play with in further explorations, further fandom of this phrase and what it can mean, what it means to me personally, in perhaps this intersection of Taoism and having heard it from this such a beautiful reading by Samaneri JSR. And again, can find her information, and she has that very meditation recorded and offered freely here on Insight Timer and many other places as well. So please be sure to go to the source if this is resonating for you and listen to it, because it's a transformative experience just to be able to hear the words in the embodied way she speaks it, the unhurried and fullness of these words that can be shared. And for us here, we're going to begin to humbly feel our feet. So if it works for you, for this first part of today's exploration, we will be actually standing. And coming into a stance where the feet are far enough apart, about hip width, shoulder width apart. You feel like you have a strong and open base. And where the knees are not locked out, not too bent, but just soft. And you can see whether you would like to close your eyes, or like we were playing with a little last time, maybe keeping them open, just as that reminder that we're not having to seek inside of ourselves or seek outside of ourselves for this thing called meditation. And to help us settle into our body, we're going to do a few movements called Return to Uji, where the hands come out to the side, a little bit out to the front, and then just down the midline. And breathe out if you'd like as the hands come down. And just seeing if with the out breath and with the downward movement of the hands, there's this inviting to feel more downward. As they say in Qigong, a sense of sinking the qi, thinking or emotionally agitated can tend to get a little bit more top heavy. Just helping us recognize that we have a body that's full of feeling in this moment. And this next time, bringing the hands around and letting them come to rest on our dantian, the center of our physical body, a little bit below the belly button, and in the middle of us, not just on the surface where the hands are touching, but actually inside. And can take your time, but maybe seeing what it would be like to feel as though you could drop more into being there at your dantian. And this might feel like a dropping through of a sense of maybe the observer or the doer hanging out behind your eyes. It's actually the upper dantian. And just let it sink downward. Or imagine it sinking downward. Gradually past the heart center or middle dantian. And sinking down to the middle of you. Until you feel a little bit more like oriented there. Centered. Centered in your physical center. And then that physical center gets to move through space. So let's bring it more over to the right side, and where the right leg is going to become weighted. Upper body stays quiet. All of our weight goes down through that leg, through that foot, and into the earth. And then moving centered at your lower dantian, it moves over to the left. And the left leg now becomes the weighted leg. Shifting back the other way. Shifting through space. Back the other way again. And then gradually bringing the lower dantian where it's centered between the two legs and the weight goes down through both legs. And so something that is practiced in Tai Chi, which is a Taoist martial art, is that for a variety of martial art applications, it's important to have a full sense of connection with the ground. This is the case for, perhaps more obviously, balance. If someone's trying to unbalance you, like can happen in Tai Chi Tui Shou, push hands. And also for many applications of power and speed, including punching. This connection with the earth is important. It can actually be the source of our force, primary source. And so the sense of rootedness is something that can be traditionally cultivated in Tai Chi practice. So might even, so we're going to contrast this slightly with what we can now practice and see the benefits of. Let's see if we have no means of understanding that Earth has gravity and there's action reaction and all of that's going on as a way of nature. Then, especially if we need a little bit more of an advantage, we might practice a sense of actively rooting. So for this, can drop your hands and even come into a slightly wider stance called horse stance. And bring the arms around to be like they're holding a large sphere. And you want to be connected with the earth. You want to feel a sense of that pressure there with the ground, that connection. You want to root. Again, it can so easily, come into the sense of an active. Even though Tai Chi, the central principle is relaxation, and seem like it's something we need to cultivate. So go ahead and feel like I need to root. I need to connect with the earth and approach it like something you need to make happen. You need to create that root, cultivate it. And then coming back into standing. And for those who are part of the exploration last time, that's like when we're just feeling the weight of our hands laying down onto our lap, to feel like we have to actively press our hands down into the ground to have that connection. And so traditionally, they even recognized that when they practiced rooting, especially in the Zhao Zhe Chen style Tai Chi from the Chen family, they would practice both this sense of rooting, and then they noticed, oh my goodness, with this active sense of rooting, then I can lose my nimbleness. And so then they would actually kind of counteract the sense of rootedness with a whole form called nimble step, where they would practice regaining that sense of lightness. Setting that all aside, it just is there as, again, this extended kind of analogy of, even for something like standing, we can fall into a sense of doing and trying instead of simply settling. And then we need to adjust that yet again. We need to balance it with another practice, another technique. And it can become quite complicated. Let's just bring our hands round to our lower dantian once again. And let yourself sink a little bit more into your inside, down into you. And now, instead of trying to do anything, we're just going to more fully let ourselves feel what is going on. And for this, you may like to further feel like you can drop down through your legs. And you're feeling right there where your feet meet the ground. Let yourself be right at the bottom of the soles of your feet. If you're choosing to practice with eyes open, and it's really optional, whatever is for you, just letting the gaze be a little bit downward. You don't have to look at the screen. Let the edges of your periphery vision be there yet softened. And be there at the soles of your feet. And then bringing the weight all the way over to one side. And feel that from within the sole of that foot. Just feel what's going on. The downflow through of your weight. The upflow through of support. The foot spreading between those two. And then shifting all the way over to the other side. Being at the sole to witness the downflow through. To feel the upflow through. The way the foot spreads. With that interaction and interbeing. Shifting all the way to the other side. And we'll say, lay down the burden. Really let yourself feel the downflow through. And how the upflow through is there. 100% matching it. And how the foot feels in that interconnection. Body and earth seamlessly interacting at the level of forces. Shifting all the way over to the other side. And let the other foot taste that. The way it is. The mutual flow of nature. And as we continue to shift back and forth, simply feeling what is as it is. Perhaps noticing if the foot in a way more fully acknowledges and responds to the fact that the earth is holding it up. To see if there's a pocket of tension or extra holding in between the bones of your foot. Like the long toes that spread out like a fan within your foot. Was there some extra holding, even an extra sense of, I gotta hold myself up? That can release and relax. That center of the foot called Yuan Chuan can feel a little more open sometimes as the foot spreads. As the holding between the toes inside the foot releases. And with the heart of the foot more open, seeing if it's in a way more open to that support from the earth coming up into the foot. And with that, acknowledging viscerally, feeling the upflow through from the earth of its support. Perhaps at some level feeling, this is something I can more lay down into. I can more fully lay down the burden into this support. And then notice if some extra trying, holding tension lets go. And as that lets go, it's more evident how this support from the ground is right there, just the way it is. Was actually always there. And with that fuller feeling of support, it's something to let go into, to lay down into. And gradually bringing your dantian back just to center. Your weight going down through both legs. And notice how standing feels. And what can be interesting, for sure, it's a practice. is that the experience of standing can shift, where we might feel very much more connected with the earth, rooted with the earth, centered and grounded as we stand. Yet we were never aiming for any of that. We weren't trying for any of that. We were simply feeling the way things were already going on, which in this case was that our weight was already being fully met at our feet by earth support. You can drop the hand and go for a very, very slow, super slow, gentle walking meditation where you lay down into support with each and every step. And where this lay down the burden, lay down into support, could also be called simply settle the weight directly into the support of the ground. And how that simply settling is actually not something we do or cultivate. It's a feeling, a recognition of the way it was already going on even when we were oblivious to it. Or maybe not. I'm largely oblivious. I won't say you were oblivious. Maybe not as fully cognizant or mindful or feeling full of it. It can really seem like a paradox. Well, if it's just the way nature is always, what's the practice? What could be the benefit? How could it change my experience if it's just always the way it is? And maybe if we get an experiential taste of what it's like when it's just feet and ground, then that can be the foundation for what that can be like if we simply settle into any way of nature, any way things already always are. And as a stepping stone, we talked about before, we won't jump directly to simply settling into the nature of mind, if ever. But another place where we can practice this as a stepping stone to see, okay, can I take that experiential sense of what's simply settle, laying down into the ground of what is, the support of the way things are already going on. Can I take that and apply it to something like feeling a little bit more at ease, a little less tension in my shoulders? And so can go ahead and, as we did before, come into horse stance and complete this horse stance by holding a large sphere in front of you. And breathing in, being here for just a little bit. Actually, we're hanging out here just long enough to begin to feel perhaps a little tiredness and tension in the shoulders, holding up our arm weight. And one of the things that is often a point in Tai Chi is our shoulders down. So instead of the shoulders creeping up, shoulders down, just see what it would be like to actually press your shoulders down. That's a little interesting. And then actually just go ahead and bring your shoulders up into your ears for a little tense. Just hold, gently hold and tense. And then in a moment on the out breath, we're going to just drop our shoulders and let them find their own resting place. So up in our ears and breathe in. And on the out breath, just drop the shoulders, see where they want to land. Where's the ground that they want to land upon? Notice if there's a should, especially for those of us who have been told to have good posture, open chest. Notice if there's a little bit of a should, and see where your shoulders actually want to land here and now. One more time, bringing the shoulders up into the ears, a little tense. And let them come down. Let them fall with gravity. Let them see where they want to land upon the support of your torso. And then lowering the arms, coming back up into standing. And gently bending over slightly and letting the arms simply hang. And now we'll more subtly feel the way our arms already have this weight They're being drawn to the earth. And just shake out your arms for any extra tension. And then let them hang loose and limp. And maybe notice that as you release extra habitual tension and holding, the arms even feel a bit heavier. And as the arms feel heavier, you might actually feel how they're gently opening our shoulder joints, even across our upper back. And just continuing to feel this lay down of our arms to the shoulders, to our torso, gradually rolling up as our arms continue just to hang in the line of gravity. And where the weight of our arms is helping our shoulders feel a little less propped up, but actually to lay down to the support beneath. Let the arms simply settle directly onto the ground of the torso. Lay down the burden into support that's there. Let's bring this into the opening move of the Chenman Qing Yang style. So for this, the arms float up right in front of you as if there's strings attached to your wrist. And as we hang out here, I'm just going to give the side view so that you can see how long out the arms go. Notice if there's just a sense of, well, my arms need to go up, they have weight, and I've got to do more. And that the shoulders also begin to rise up. And let are we actually fighting our own arm weight here? Or could we just feel our arm weight? And how that actually helps the shoulder to lay down to support beneath. And then sending the fingers out long, hovering along this pool of water. And then turning, and the hands stream through. And letting them release completely at the bottom, letting them feel heavy. They have that hanging weight. It's already laid down to the shoulder, to the torso. And slowly repeating the move with that awareness of the shoulder laying down, the shoulder can stay laid down. The arm weight can actually help us more feel that lay down at the shoulder. Feeding through it. Where we feel what is the way of nature going on. Lay down and support that togetherness. That helps us to release the extra tension and holding and sense of only up, up, up by myself. And then we feel more the way that our arm weight is actually helping that lay down the burden sense. It's helping us recognize the support that's there. The shoulder laying down to the ground of the torso. And as we feel that support more, it gives us more that sense of what we can lay down into. And one last time. And standing here, just notice how the shoulders feel. And if you'd like, we're going to come to sitting. For this final leg of this exploration, which may be one of the harder things to begin to realize and feel about the way of nature and what simply settling into the way of nature might mean. And this is part of, as you'll see in a moment, it's hard enough to feel this just in the physicality of our shoulders with all the clarity of physics and action reaction, mutual flow to guide us. So perhaps this can in addition to giving us a model for how tricky this can be to kind of grok in a way, it might also give us some tremendous respect for what Patrul Rinpoche is pointing at when he says whatever arises in the mind. Whatever arises, that you simply settle into that. It's not, for example, oh, there's thinking and non-thinking. And when I'm thinking, I need to shift over more into non-thinking. The way Patrul Rinpoche describes it is when the mind is thinking, you simply settle directly into the thinking mind. When there's non-thinking, you simply settle directly into the non-thinking mind. Thinking or non-thinking, whatever is happening in the mind, you simply settle directly into it without trying to alter it in any way. So let's explore this at the level of shoulders, where we do have the support of, I should say the support, well, in a way, that's true, the support of, so far as we know, and I'm not saying action-reaction is the Tao, I'm not, Master Wonchull Park is not saying that either, but so far as we know, there's not an exception for action-reaction, and that gives us a sense of how we can perceive a little more correctly the way things are going on. And as we've seen in various practices so far, we can tend to block out the mutuality of both directions, even at the level of our ground and the feet. So, for example, and you don't have to do this for very long, or you can skip it overall. But say you were doing a movement and you were hiking up your shoulder. So this would be even like you were doing that opening movement of the yang style, and instead of the shoulders laying down, you were just hiking them up like this, and there would be reasons why that would make you more weak and these kinds of things. But at the level of what is going on, even if my shoulders are up like this, they are still fully LDB, laying down the burden to the support beneath. What? I thought you said that this is when they're LDBing. I'm using the initial. This is when they're laying down the burden. This is not when they're laying down the burden. And this is again how we tend to look at our experience as conditional and as up to us. I've got to get it right. This is right. This is wrong, and I need to alter it from wrong to right. So how could I possibly say that this is also fully laying down the burden? Well, laying down the burden into support, this mutuality of action and reaction, is just the way that every interaction happens at the level of forces. So even if I'm like this, How is it that my arm is here? It wouldn't be here if it wasn't being matched by support. My weight of my arm is still being matched by support. It's just I'm not really feeling the ease of the support that is available to me. And I'm doing a lot of extra tension as a result. So it's going to be a lot harder for me here to feel how there is this mutual flow and lay down into support going on. But it is still going on. And if, again, using this as an externalized analogy, so if if I were just teaching, say Tai Chi typically, then it's like, oh, just, release this and see how it's more easy to feel, shake out the extra tension, lay down. But what if this was just stuck? What if I was almost in a brace of some kind and it felt really stuck and I actually needed to keep my arm exactly as it is here with my shoulder hiked up and everything feeling kind of uncomfortable? What would it be like to feel how even here in this position, I can still feel that LDB is going on, lay down the burden is still going on. It might not change anything outwardly, but at a subtle level, see for yourself if you want to try with this. Can experiment with it. Can I simply settle directly into even experiences where I don't feel the physicality of support as easily? And maybe here, just ending with a personal contemplation. Because at the end of the day, for me and perhaps for you as well, this is not so much about the physicality of the body, though there can be tremendous benefits, health benefits. It's a little bit more a question of how do I live, and how do I live when things can be so difficult and so difficult on the inside. So I might just contemplate on emotion or inner experience that you tend to want to avoid. that when you experience it, you try and shift out of it. You can even use the example of being in meditation and thinking. And you have a aspiration to have less thinking in your meditation practice. Or it might be any number of experiences. And Patrul Rinpoche kindly lists many out for us. And we'll go into those as well. We'll pick your own here. And then just seeing what it would be like you won't be able to perhaps approach this experientially. You're welcome to see what it could be like in your own time. We're just connecting the dots here. What if instead of trying to alter this experience, that this experience itself has the ground of reality, the way of nature, true nature, already there. And I could simply settle directly into that arising without altering it in any way. And that would be enough. It is enough to simply settle in an experience of whatever is arising in the mind. And that is it. As Patrul Rinpoche often repeats in this self-liberating meditation. And as you absorb today's exploration, I do hope that it might be the kickoff of some interest in how some of this may be, seemingly quite paradoxical. It's the way it always is, yet we can practice it. Even when we are, very seemingly feeling stuck or not in the optimal way, we don't have to try and change that. We can feel what is always so, even within it. And that in this process, that's not a process, it's simply settling into the ground of reality, the way things are already and always. Aspects of our experience do shift. Seems like a whole nest of paradoxes. And so that's why today I did talk a little bit more during the session, a little bit less fully as just a guided practice and more like coming to know what these examples can be like, that then do serve as these simpler models that any of us can have access to in terms of feeling more fully. I've taught 4-year-olds how to more feel their feet, and they become more unpushoverable in Tai Chi push hands, Tui Shou. And so, this is all something that is immediately, tangibly accessible, testable, and even understandable at the level of physics. And we're not talking, some esoteric interpretation or mysterious aspect of modern physics that's yet to have a consensus of how to interpret it. But this is action-reaction as this example of a way of nature that's always going on, and yet we can practice it and we can benefit from it. And even if we don't feel like it's, optimal for feeling it, it's still there and going on. And the more we simply settle directly into the Tao of that going on, there's just a shift that happens that's not a shift. That's not a should. That's not trying for something. That's not saying this way and not that way. But just any arising, any experience also has this way of nature that we can simply settle into, and that is it. So I'd be very curious whether you're here together live with us or experiencing this in recorded time, to hear your comments about your experience and your questions, because even here at the level of physicality, it can be quite confusing in a way. And again, highly recommend that you go to the source, Samaneri JSR's beautiful recording of Patrul Rinpoche's Self-Liberating meditation. And I will put the links there. You go ahead and come a little bit closer. See if I can get those. And I asked Insight Timer. I was like, is there some way I could share this link more directly? Because I'm promoting something that is on Insight Timer. And this is apparently the best I can do for now. Vagabond Nemo, hello, David, hello, Emily, hello, Swissar, hello. I feel like there should be like a special reunion. You guys are just amazing. Karen, hello from Cleveland, Ohio. Hello, Karen. Welcome. Thanks for saying hi. As you can see, I like getting to know y'all. I think Charlotte's here. Martha's here. Welcome. Carol's here. Welcome to some new people who dared to join this. Matt, LDB. Love it. Thank you. Great session. Great to see you, Matt. And you caught me about midway through. I teach this so much in Tai Chi. I started to fall right into the acronym. I was like, whoa, wait a second. You might not know what I'm talking about if I just do LDB. Welcome all. Sorry, it's hard for me to get on the see you all and be on camera at the same time. I know it takes some time to tap out something either on your phone or on your computer, but I'm really curious about what, if anything, connects for you here. So LDB, such a simple thing, and yet can in a way reveal the many ways that we try, the many ways that we think we have to try. While Emily was typing away, Emily says, this was a profound practice for me today. I'm having some physical pain, and so often my thinking mind becomes a way of trying to control or run away from that. But with this guidance, I've had some moments of just allowing that to be the ground. Oh my goodness, Emily, you're already applying it to that. Wow. To be the ground of what I'm experiencing right now. Just settling together with it, and that's enough right now. Yeah. Hearts for Emily. She's, I was hinting at some of that, but that's advanced practice right there, to go into it where, even our pain is part of a flow of nature. We can simply settle into whatever's arising, and that is enough. And that's not easy. And I think if I have a hope here, it's that with examples like standing or shoulders, can get an experiential sense of what that can feel like, so that it does become easier even when the circumstances, inner or outer, are harder. Thanks for sharing that, Emily. And thanks for all the love that people are giving in the channel. Hearts are for you, Emily. Matt, slow is really nice. When I teach Tai Chi, I wish I could just sometimes spend a whole hour, just like we did. Spend a whole hour just, shifting our weight side to side. My Tai Chi classes would be even smaller than they already are if I did that. So, Matt, you're a trooper to like slow. David, this has been fascinating. Thank you. I'm going to have to watch the recording several times over, I think. I'm not having the best of days today. So I'm a little hard of thought and exhausted of body. Yeah, some hearts for David. Yeah. And I'll say, like, this was a slow practice. David sends his hearts to Emily, and David says, slow is always good with me. Nice. Yeah. We're the slow crowd. Happy to be so. And some practices are a little bit more experiential and just, you might have noticed today we didn't do the foundations that I always do. So it was kind of, as slow as it was almost like a slow, exploratory case study. I'll just say, right? A very slow, exploratory, experiential case study. So we were kind of looking at various cases. So it was could have felt a little more brainy. And where this is something that we come back to again and again, I come back to all the time. And there is that further uncovering of what does it experientially mean? Simply settle into reality. And I think there's no end. My thanks to you all for practicing together here today. Looks like there was one more comment. Emily says, the idea of settling can feel anything but simple for me at times. But this finding the ground today clicked for me. Yeah. Thanks, Mackenzie, and everyone practicing here. I would just continue to notice in one's own experience when is settling kind of being approached as I'm going to shift my experience. I am unsettled. Oh my goodness, earlier today I was so antsy. I'm unsettled. Oh, I gotta settle. I calm down. And for all the beautiful benefits of mindfulness and more mainstream meditation, it can also begin to color our experience of, I should be calm, I should settle, I should change my inner experience because that's what I should be able to do. That's what this technique and that technique and this other thing is all geared towards, right? So if I just follow what they say, I should be able to settle, and then I'll feel better. And when I don't, it's somehow my fault, and I'm not enough, and now I'm not enough, and now I need to have more self-compassion, so I'm going to go and learn how to do that, and that's difficult, and so I'm now not enough for self-compassion, and then, it becomes... I'm not speaking hypothetically. That was my experience of Buddhism for about 10 years. And it gets very, exactly as you say, it gets complicated really fast. So just notice when simply settle is, I should be more settled. And then what is it like to simply settle directly into the unsettledness? You can simply settle into a feeling, an arising of unsettledness. That's the kind of meaning here of simply settle. Yeah. David says, just being here has been good for me today. Calm thought can work wonders when I'm feeling rough. Yeah. Simply settle, heart. Wonderful playtime with presence. Thank you. Exactly. David says I've had years of that too. Yeah. My sense is that people who are drawn to something like this, you've tried a lot of things. I wish I could have done this a long time ago. Me too. Me too. Well, that's going to inspire me to go forth and trying to be a little bit braver in my life and share this a little bit more. So, feeling a bit of self-doubt earlier today, and you all have lifted my spirits and helped me feel like I just need to keep on going and sharing this as I can. All right, thanks all. Really appreciate it. And take care of yourselves.